everyone, I'm Sarah Davis, and you're watching Fight News Now, the MMA edition. We have a jam-packed show for you with the latest headlines coming out of the MMA world. On 3 rounds, John Ramdeen and Robin Black set us up for upcoming fights. And on the shift, there are a lot of fighters putting their skills on the silver screen. The viral video is back this week, and you don't want to miss it, so here we go. After UFC welterweight champion George St-Pierre's successful return to the octagon, there's been so much talk about a super fight with Anderson Silva, but GSP says that as much as he wants this fight, it has to be on his terms. In the meantime, GSP wants the challenges in the welterweight division, so this super fight could be on hold for a while. So if GSP says the super fight with Anderson Silva has to be on his terms, we might not see this bout happen for a while. However, another welterweight could be in the cards for Silva. Nick Diaz is coming off his suspension soon, and his manager, Cesar Gracie, thinks a Diaz-Silva fight is something the fans want to see.
We're pushing for the GSP fight. That's what we're going to push for, GSP or Anderson Silva. That's the 2 fights that interest us the most, and that's the ones we're going for. Their people are into it. We're into it. The fans, I think, would be into it. Got to convince Dana about it now. You know what I mean? Obviously, the fight that makes sense to them, and I don't disagree, is Anderson versus GSP. But let's get real. If GSP just absolutely says no, then what? You can't make a guy fight. And then if Anderson, if they wanted to promote a super fight and if the stars align, I mean, I think Nick would be into it. I think it'd be great.
After dropping 4 fights in a row with the UFC, former welterweight contender Dan Hardy has put together back-to-back wins. Most recently, he earned a unanimous decision over Amir Sadallah in his hometown of Nottingham, England in September, and here's what we can expect to see him back in the cage.
I'm looking at probably the end of March or the beginning of April because I don't want to rush and get into another fight anytime soon. I want to make sure I'm improving between fights and give myself that time to work. I've been working a lot with Ricky Lundell and Robert Drysdale in Vegas, and both of those guys have helped me out a lot. And obviously with Ricky's his pedigree in wrestling and he's got a black belt as well, so he structures the grappling very well for me, and that's something I've never had before. I've always bounced around from one instructor to the other, and they've just always kind of taught me little bits and bobs, and I've never had any kind of structure to build it on. And now I have a system that I can work through in a fight. I'm just more confident to use it now, and it's definitely something I'll be using more in the future.
On December 8th at UFC on Fox 5, MMA legend BJ Penn will come out of retirement to face rising star Rory MacDonald. They were supposed to fight in September before MacDonald suffered a cut to his forehead, and as you can see here, it's given Penn more than enough time to get in shape. And ever since that cut happened, there's been a lot of trash talking going back and forth between the two. Penn thinks MacDonald is scared, but you can bet that the TriStar protege is ready for the battle.
He likes to start shit. He likes to get people excited. I don't really think about it too much, to tell you the truth. Whatever. He at the end of the day, he could say whatever he wants to say, get people excited, but I'm still going to beat his ass.
So after MacDonald beats Penn's ass, if in fact that happens, he wants a rematch with the only fighter to ever hand him a loss in his professional career. MacDonald was TKO'd by Carlos Condit at UFC 115 with just 7 seconds left in the fight, and he's looking to redeem himself.
I'm taking one step at a time. I'm fighting BJ. Plan on beating him. I plan on hopefully getting my rematch against Carlos in 2013, win or lose.
So Carlos is your next guy you like to be after Penn?
Yeah.
In Bellator Fighting Championships, there's only one way to get a title shot, and that's by winning one of the season-long tournaments. But they've added a clause to that rule. Now a fighter can get a championship rematch if the original fight was so good that it only makes sense to see the 2 fighters battle it out again. Of course, the final decision on that will come down to CEO Bjorn Rebney. The kickboxing bout between Tyrone Spong and Remy Bonjasky has been moved from February to March 23rd in London, England. Bonjasky is fighting on the year-end Dream Glory card, and the promotion wanted to give him enough time for a proper training camp before he faces Spong. And speaking of Dream's year-end show, we've learned that the card will feature a huge, literally 16-man heavyweight kickboxing tournament, including fighters like Semi Schilt, Errol Zimmerman, and Daniel Guida. UFC lightweight Anthony Showtime Pettis has spent much of 2012 nursing a shoulder injury. A nasty rivalry between him and Donald Cowboy Cerrone has developed in that time after Cerrone called out Pettis and claimed he was ducking him.
For me, my last year wasn't the best year. I mean, I had a shoulder surgery. I was out for a long time. People want to call me out when I'm injured. So, I'm just ready. Next year,
Talking about Cerrone?
Cerrone, yeah. I mean, he's waited till I was hurt to call me out. When I was healthy, before I got the surgery, no one wanted to fight me. That was the reason the surgery happened. And I'm injured. I gotta get better. I can't fight with a hurt shoulder. I respect his skills, but as a person, I don't respect him at all. I mean, the way he went about the fight. If you want to fight me, tell me you want to fight me. You don't got to talk shit about it, you know?
Talk about trash talking. Check out this tweet from Luke Rockhold after he pulled out of his fight with a wrist injury. He tweeted to Larkin, "I want nothing more than to fight you, #easy money, but I'm not gonna fight anyone one-handed. Shut your mouth and know your place." Meow. Larkin was supposed to get a shot at the middleweight belt at what's rumored to be the last Strikeforce event this January. Larkin seems to think Rockhold is ducking him. Listen to what he had to say.
He's been a champion for a long time. There's no doubt he's won the UFC. You know, he should have never took the fight. I would have rather him never took the fight and me fought somebody totally different. And, you know, him take the fight 2 times knowing that, you know, that they're probably just going to pull out. It's a different era of fighters, man. It's like they're just not kind of built how they used to be.
So this has become one sad goodbye card for Strikeforce. Their middleweight championship fight is canceled along with the lightweight title bout because Gilbert Melendez had to pull out with an injury. So Jorge Masvidal has stepped in to replace Melendez and faced #1 contender Pat Healy, who's on a 5-fight winning streak. Perhaps once Melendez is healed, we'll finally see him move over to the UFC, where Ben Henderson is the current lightweight champion. Henderson will make his 2nd title defense when he headlines UFC on Fox 5 against the younger Diaz brother, Nate. Here's Cesar Gracie's prediction on how the fight will play out.
I think he's going to win. I think he's got all the skills to win this fight. If I was to make a prediction on how he was going to win a fight like this, there's so many avenues because he's so good on the ground and he's so good standing. So I'm thinking probably submission, and I'll give it the 3rd or 4th round submission after he batters him standing.
Diaz is coming off a submission of the night over Jim Miller in May, and whether or not Diaz keeps this next fight standing or on the ground, he's hoping to stop it before the match goes to the judges.
I don't think that I got a chance to win in any type of decision. I got to go out there and do what I could do and try to finish my opponent, try to be the better fighter and win the fight. Either way, if it goes to decision, I'm going to try to be the one outscoring and outpointing on doing him.
One of the most recognizable voices in MMA has launched an iPhone app. UFC ring announcer Bruce Buffer's new app is called none other than It's Time! It contains about 150 messages that act as reminders or an alarm clock, like, it's time to get your ass out of bed. You can find it in your iTunes App Store, and don't forget to download ours while you're at it. Carlos Condit's tattoo artist has sued THQ, the video game developers of UFC Undisputed 3, for using the lion image that he designed for the right side of Condit's ribs. The artist claims that THQ recreated the tattoo in the game without consent. Condit needs to obtain a written assignment of copyright in order to own the tattoo design. The UFC's big year-end show will be on December 29th in Las Vegas, featuring the much-anticipated rematch between heavyweight champion Junior Dos Santos and former title holder Cain Velasquez. In their first meeting, JDS knocked out Velasquez just 64 seconds into their fight.
I am the baddest man on the planet, and after this fight, I will still be. It's MMA. You have to be ready for all the situations, but I think I'm ready for Velasquez, and I will beat him.
Velasquez earned himself a title shot after taking out Antonio Silva with punches at UFC 146 and looks to take the heavyweight belt back against JDS at the end of the month.
I got myself into this sport to be the best, and there's one guy I have to go through to be that. That's the only thing that I want is a belt, and to keep it and keep defending it.
And those are your newsmakers, and we have a huge heavyweight matchup to look forward to at the end of December. John Ramdeen with me now. And speaking of heavyweight, John, I think that mustache is a contender for the heavyweight division. 3 rounds is next after the break with you and Robin Black. And what do you guys have cooking for us?
Well, we talk about a 205-pound matchup that could provide us with the #1 contender for Jon Jones or Chael Sonnen. Stick around to find out who it is.
All right, all that after the break on 3 rounds. It's that time for John Ramdeen and Robin Black to take us through 3 rounds of some of the biggest stories in MMA. So let's take it over to them. Ramdeen and Robin, what do you guys have for us?
Thanks, SD. Well, the Ultimate Fighter finale goes down in December 16th. We take a look at an intriguing 205-pound matchup. And Gegard Mousasi, is he UFC bound? But we'll start with the UFC on Fox 5. And we talked about the new guard and the old guard, BJ Penn taking on Rory McDonald. But we have a similar matchup with Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on the young lion Alexander Gustafsson. I absolutely love this fight, Robin, and I know there's been a lot of criticism of Shogun saying that he's not mixing it up. He isn't taking fights as seriously as he needs to, but the proof is in the pudding. If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Well, fair enough, but sometimes you got to fix things just because other people are, just because the world around you is changing. And yes, Shogun has never really been the hardest trainer. He's never been one of these guys who's always adding new wrinkles to his game. He knows what he does well, and he does it well. And he's been very successful with that formula. The unfortunate thing is, these young guys, a guy like Alexander Gustafsson is coming up here, training at a higher level, researching things, working with better coaches, improving his diet, his training regimen, everything, and Shogun's gonna have a hard time keeping up.
I think Shogun really is just one of these extreme talents. We've seen his wrestling improve over the years. We've seen his jiu-jitsu. It seems to be on a different level in comparison to some of the guys in the 205-pound division, but his striking is really what sets him apart. And I look at this fight with Alexander Gustafsson. Yes, Gustafsson is training with Phil Davis, a solid wrestler, especially for mixed martial arts, and Brandon Vera, a guy that came to fight in his fight with Shogun. So I think Gustafsson might have a couple of tools he can use, but I think when it comes to the firefight, the stand-up game, Shogun definitely has the advantage. And will Gustafsson be able to handle the firepower of the Brazilian? That is the question.
Well, Shogun is tougher than Gustafsson. I mean, he's proven it over and over again, and he's a better striker than he is. So if Alexander Gustafsson decides he's going to stand in the middle of the cage and trade with Shogun, doesn't matter how much Shogun is fatiguing, aging, injured, Shogun will knock him out. But Alexander Gustafsson is one of these smart, evolving guys, and he's going to have a more complex game plan than that. And I think the overall thing is, Shogun is a smart, tough, strong, real fighter. But there's these guys coming along that are athletes who are intelligent and learning and evolving. And what happens when those meet? Eventually, we're going to be left with only these high-level modern athletes. And this could be one of those moments.
Right now, they're kind of running out of challenges for current champion Jon Jones. Maybe intriguing matchups. I mean, we saw Lyoto Machida, we saw Shogun, we saw Rampage and Rashad, and we've got this matchup with Chael Sonnen in April. And I think if Gustafsson takes this fight as seriously as he needs to and can put Shogun away, he fast-tracks himself to the head of the 205-pound lineup. And I think that is kind of the motivating factor for him.
Hey, sure, if you want to get to the head of that lineup and you want to make yourself $800,000 or $900,000 of pay-per-view revenue, go do it by all means. But you're going to get your ass knocked out by Jon Jones. He is nowhere near ready for Jon Jones, and that is part of the element of the evolution of the game at this point. When we have guys that are genetically, physically, and skill-wise superior than the rest of the pack, you got to be really careful when you put yourself in that #1 spot. But hey, man, $1 million or a couple $1 million that you can make on that pay-per-view revenue will change your life, so what the hell?
I would never count out Mauricio Shogun Rua. The guy is just too tough, too skilled. You mentioned toughness. Very few fighters as tough as the Brazilian. And I think that's why Gegard Mousasi, former Strikeforce champion, said he wants to make his way to the Ultimate Fighting Championship and fight Shogun. And if that fight doesn't go his way, he's willing to go down to middleweight. But I think when he eventually makes his way to the UFC, if he can get past Mike Pyle, I think that Gegard Mousasi is going to make a huge impact on the 205-pound division.
Absolutely. And, you know, the interesting thing about this is you pause for a second and you go, really, Gegard Mousasi's never fought in the UFC? This is an elite guy. He's been in the top 10 lists many times throughout the last 4 or 5 years on many people's lists. Super skilled, very exciting to watch. You know, and it's fascinating when you look at it. A lot of people complain about the UFC's monopoly. Oh, well, you'll take over the Strikeforce, and then you'll absorb this, and putting these other companies out of business. But ultimately, don't you want to see Mousasi versus Shogun? I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gegard Mousasi, he hasn't been active, you know, rehabbing injuries, just trying to get better, trying to learn the wrestling game, because that is a part of it. And you go online, you can read lots of stuff about Mousasi and his mixed martial arts journey, and he really is trying to get to the top, and he's trying to round out all his skills. The most important thing for him is he says he's never been hurt in a fight. He always thinks about safety. That's really paramount for him, and when you have that mindset and you look at the way this guy fights, you know sky is the limit.
For sure. And hey, never been hurt in a fight. You know, I'd give the guy a couple of beers and hang out near his fireplace and ask him if he's telling the truth, because we've seen him hit, and if that doesn't hurt, then he's on another level. But, you know, I'm just personally really excited by the fact that all the best guys will be in the same organization. Yeah, there's some business issues, there's some other challenges, there's some fighter pay, all kinds of issues. But when you get all the best guys in a position where they can fight each other, that's good times.
In order for Mousasi to get that crack at Shogun, he has to get through Mike Kyle, and that is no easy task. Mike Kyle, of course, training at the American Kickboxing Academy with some of the best in the world, including the former heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez, and a man that is considered one of the top kind of blue chip prospects, and Daniel Cormier. So I think he'll be ready for anything Mousasi brings his way, and if Mousasi sleeps on Mike Kyle, he could go to sleep.
Yeah, and you know, the word gatekeeper kind of has this like dark thing attached to it for some weird reason, because to truly be a gatekeeper and be a high-level guy that people must get past to get to their next level, that's a proud place to be. That's a noble spot.
On December 15th, the Ultimate Fighter 16 finale takes place in Las Vegas, Nevada. Of course, it's headlined by Roy Nelson and Matt Mitrione. Mitrione steps in for Shane Carwin. I think it's too early for Matt Mitrione. Roy Nelson is very skilled. He has a granite chin and maybe one of the most underrated ground games in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, Roy Nelson's going to knock out Matt Mitrione, in my opinion, with that giant overhand right. But the rest of that card, the rest of this finale, John, maybe it's because I'm cutting weight right now. I'm the biggest MMA fan in the world. This is what I do for a living. I am absorbed and put into this business 24 hours a day, but I could give a crap about the Ultimate Fighter
Yes,
right now.
the Ultimate Fighter itself, but some of the matchups, they have Dustin Poirier versus Jonathan Brookins. They have Melvin Gillard versus Jamie Varner. Also on the card, Mike Pyle. So the UFC still doing their best to put on intriguing matchups. And I know when you have when you have Dustin Poirier on a card and you have Mike Pyle, it is promising.
Who am I kidding? I'm going to watch it.
Okay. And next week we take a closer look at UFC on Fox 5, which is going to deliver a ton of entertainment.
Oh yeah, that's going to be an awesome show. Thanks, guys. After the break, find out which UFC champion has caught the acting bug along with his teammate. And on the viral video, a pair of crutches get smashed to smithereens. Welcome back to Fight News Now. We have not only one, but two live shows on Fight Network this weekend, and you're not going to want to miss either one of them. On Saturday afternoon, starting at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll air Bama 11 live from Birmingham, featuring a middleweight affair between Jack Marshman and Xavier Fupa Poca. Then on Sunday, catch Infusion live from Slovenia, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now let's take a look at the shift, where a couple fighters are testing out their acting chops. Black House teammates Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida are set to star in the MMA film Tapped. And here are some exclusive photos of the guys in action while the cameras were rolling at Extreme Couture in Toronto. Maybe Steven Seagal taught them a thing or two about acting after he taught them the crane kick. And Seagal is still showing off his mixed martial arts these days, most recently alongside former WWE superstar Stone Cold Steve Austin, as the two badass Steves team up to open up a can of whoop-ass. Anchor Bay Entertainment brings us Maximum Conviction, and this flick has old 80s action movie written all over it.
This is about money. $200 million. Secret financial information.
Steven Seagal and Steve Austin star as former Black Ops partners in the action-packed film Maximum Conviction.
Having fun yet?
The dynamic duo are called back into action with the objective to oversee and protect the arrival of two mysterious female prisoners.
Sure got some ugly janitors in this dome.
Who let the hooker in?
I did.
As the true identities of the women are revealed, Seagal and Austin may have gotten more than what they had bargained for.
Do not release the prisoners.
Where are they, goddammit?
No pain, no gain.
Finally, we've come to our viral video, and you have to check out this fight in Times Square that somehow turns a pair of crutches into deadly weapons. Yeah, don't ask, just watch.
Stop.
Dude. Yo, can you stop? Yo. Bro, what are you doing? You're gonna get hit with the f***ing crutch, bro.
And on that note, we've come to the end of Fight News Now. Don't forget, Bama 11 and Infusion from Slovenia are both live this weekend. And not just that, check out our movies and check out our website, fightnetwork.com. Thanks for watching.